Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Wednesday, April 13th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The spring game in just 3 days, the Notre Dame game in 143 days, the game against Michigan in 227 days. In addition to giving everyone a little off-season football fix, spring ball is also a very important time for recruiting in the college football world. This Saturday's spring game will bring in some really elite recruits from around the country, capping off a very busy month or so for Mark Pantoni and his staff. Alex Gleitman has been covering a lot of that for this month, and he's back to discuss some of the recent visitors, as well as some of the names to know for this Saturday's spring game visitor list. Alex, thanks for being here.
Of course, Tom. It's an exciting time of the year for Ohio State recruiting, and it has been crazy for us covering it. Just tons of visits every single weekend, midweek. Kind of concludes this weekend with the spring game, and it's a really big list, great list that they got. So excited to talk about it.
Yeah, let's, start with some of the guys who have been here before and then who you've kind of been writing about over the last week. You have been very busy. It feels like every time I log onto the site, you've got a new story in the front page. One of them was about Dylan Lonergan. He is a top 100 quarterback for 2023. He has offers from Ohio State, but also places like Alabama and Georgia. So that gives you some sense for who his options are. That 2023 quarterback spot is kind of an interesting one with a couple five-star quarterbacks already in the roster. So, what did Dylan have to say about the Buckeyes?
Yeah, Dylan had a great visit to Ohio State. He came last summer. He threw a camp, got an offer from Ryan Day on the spot. So this is his second visit. He came back with his father, had a great time. Got to sit down with Ryan Day, Corey Dennis, got to watch practice. He's actually a two-sport star. He plays baseball. He's a really, really good baseball player. He's a pitcher. I think he plays a little first, a little third as well. So we got to meet with the baseball coaches for the first time in person, which was really good. He was excited about kind of the program they have to develop pitchers at Ohio State. So I think overall, really good visit. He told me Ohio State's one of his very top schools. Kind of mentioned, I think, 4 other programs: South Carolina, Stanford, Alabama, and Florida. So for me, the key thing is, what do those schools traditionally have in common that Ohio State doesn't? They're all good at baseball. Stanford's out west. The other ones are in the south. He's a Georgia kid. I've just always felt like this one was going to be really hard for Ohio State to win because he really is intent on playing both sports, baseball and football, at the next level. And if you're going to go play college baseball and you have options to play at Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, and Stanford, or Ohio State, which are you going to pick? And then obviously you look at the quarterback room, and there's obviously competition everywhere you go. Ohio State certainly might have a little bit more competition than a Stanford or South Carolina, for example. So, I think Ohio State's in this game. I think they'll probably get an official visit this summer as long as he takes those before a decision comes later in the summer. But I think it's still an uphill battle for Ohio State just because of the baseball thing.
All right, I'm now blanking on the name of the defensive lineman from New Jersey who was a real serious baseball prospect.
Tywone Malone.
There you go, Tywone Malone. He, it felt like baseball kind of drove that decision for him. Do you have any sense for, if Dylan is baseball first or football first, or just going to be the best, whichever offers him the best of both worlds? Do you have any sense for that, or not really yet?
It seems like it's going to be the best of both worlds. He talked when I said, what's your decision going to be based on? He didn't say baseball or football, but he did talk about football. He talked about, development, who's going to be able to develop it and who's going to give him an opportunity to compete relatively early for a starting quarterback position. So, I do think that this is he's a really good player. He's, he throws in the 90s when it comes to, being able to pitch and pitch speed and things like that. Big kid, 6'2", 215 pounds. So, this is a kid who could get drafted in the MLB draft and just decide to go that route too. It seems like he wants to go to college, but, I do think the baseball, it's not going to drive the whole decision, but it's going to be a big part of that decision.
The other interesting part of that conversation is that 2023 quarterback spot at Ohio State, because it feels like a couple of years in a row, I've thought they can't possibly keep bringing in these like top of the class guys every single year, especially, you've got another one potentially looming in 2024, and, whether that's Jaden Davis or Raiola. You've got a couple potential like 5-star type guys in 2024. You just brought in a 5-star guy in 23, in 22. You just brought in a 5-star guy in 21. You brought a 5-star guy in 20. Just the way the world works, it's like eventually it seems like you're going to have to maybe take a little bit of a lower ranked guy because you can't possibly keep pulling in these 5 stars every year. Do you have any sense for what Ohio State's strategy is going to be there? Because I mean, with going after him, I mean, it seems like they're still kind of aiming pretty high yet again.
Yeah, I mean, look, someone I spoke to today brought up a great point. They got C.J. Stroud really late in the process. They got Devin Brown really late in the process. So, two of the last two of the three quarterbacks on their roster right now, they got pretty late in the process. And whether that means flipping someone from a different program, expected coaching changes, someone gets fired like Clay Helton did last year, circumstances just change, Ohio State comes into a picture. I mean, I think it's certainly a possibility this year with someone we're not even talking about. But they've offered 7 quarterbacks right now. 3 are committed elsewhere. It looks like Christopher Vazina is probably going to commit to Clemson, so that would be 4. And then, Dylan Lonergan's another one. So that's 5 of the 7 that I really don't see probably coming to Ohio State. The other 2, I'm not that optimistic about their chances either. So, for me, it is interesting. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think that they're overly concerned right now. I still think they feel it's relatively early. They'll have the evaluation period coming up. They'll have then obviously camp season, people being able to come out to camp. So they might get out, see some guys throw. I know that they've been looking at a number of different guys, even a few that they didn't offer that are still 4-star kids. Maybe they're not the highest ranked kids, but they're still 4-star kids. But I think, there's no strategy. They expect to get the best of the best every single year and breed great competition in that room. But yeah, I mean, you're right, Tom. They probably will have to take someone who's maybe willing to take a back seat for a couple of years to a Kyle McCord or a Devin Brown, whoever succeeds CJ Stroud as a quarterback. But I think the good thing that they could sell is, look, I mean, there's no guarantee someone transfers, but there's a good chance, or there's a decent chance at least, that the loser of the Devin Brown, Kyle McCord quarterback competition does end up leaving. And so if you're that 2023 quarterback, you're the backup, and you're just one play away from being the starting quarterback at Ohio State as a freshman. So I think that that's something that they definitely are out there selling, that the opportunity is maybe better than it looks. So we'll see how the chips fall in this one, but it's certainly going to be an interesting narrative to follow the rest of the cycle.
Yeah, trying to project a quarterback depth chart out more than about 6 months right now feels just like good luck. Just your guess is as good as mine at pretty much any program in the nation, and that's probably true of Ohio State to a certain degree as well. Another big name that you wrote about pretty recently was a 2025 lineman named Mason Short. Now, he earned an offer from the Buckeyes when he was visiting Columbus. 2025 is pretty far out, but, can you give people a little bit of sense for who Mason Short is and where things maybe stand there with him and the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I mean, there's not, you talk about offering freshmen, and it's rare for Ohio State, especially the offensive line position, which is one where guys usually as a freshman aren't the size that they need to be. From a development standpoint, they're not there. But this is a kid who, as a freshman in high school in Evans, Georgia, Evans High School, is 6'7", 280 pounds. I was a little surprised Ohio State did offer so early. His only offers coming into that visit were Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Louisville, and Minnesota. And I shouldn't say only offers, because as a freshman, I think anyone in the country would love to have those 4 offers. But it's not like he had Alabama and Clemson and Georgia and Florida, and Ohio State was just like, yeah, let's throw our hat in the ring too. So, I mean, I think they did their homework here. They didn't offer the day of the visit. They actually offered the day after. So I think after meeting Mason, meeting his mother who came with him on this visit, probably diving back into the film a little bit, Justin Fry just said, why wait? Like the kid as a player, loved him as a person, want to give him the opportunity to play for Ohio State and build this relationship early. And so I think Ohio State, it's very, 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 very early. We'll see who ends up coming in this recruitment, but they made a great first impression on Mason Short. I think he'd love to get back for camp this summer, work out with Justin Fry, continue to build a relationship over the next, 3 or 4 years. And I think Ohio State will be a player in this one till the end. So really smart of them to get in early for a kid that they feel good about. Out-of-state kid, so, if things don't go development-wise the next few years how they expect it to, they can always kind of do the Homer Simpson back into the bushes, creep away from this one a little bit. So,
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Another guy where there's maybe some a little bit of something brewing there is another out of state guy, 2023 defensive lineman Darren Reed. He's out of Georgia. And I mean, from what you were saying earlier, it sounds like there's some mutual interest there on both Ohio State's end and Darren Reed's end.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State, this was the first time the kid was ever on a plane. Came to Columbus, Ohio, took in his first visit, was there for a few days, absolutely loved everything he saw. Fell in love with Ohio State, loved Larry Johnson, loved Ryan Day, loved the program, Jim Knowles. And he came away telling me Ohio State leads his recruitment, and I have no reason not to believe him. I think Florida State is probably a program right behind. I know he really likes Georgia, although I'm not fully sure how Georgia feels about him. They have offered, but is he a kid that he's a top priority for them or not? I don't really know. They've done a pretty good job with defensive linemen, so the fact that he even has an offer, I think is good. But I think the fact that they haven't been hitting the gas, pedal to the metal, full throttle on the kid, I think probably helps an Ohio State and Florida State here. So, I like where Ohio State stands. I don't think he's ready to make a decision yet, but I think the plan is come back for an official visit in the summer and then make a decision in July. And I think as long as Ohio State continues to build a relationship with him and show him the love, that they'll end up landing him.
All right, and another guy out of Georgia, 2023 five-star safety Caleb Downs. I guess, touch a little bit on where things stand with him in the Buckeyes, but also, this is a lot of kids out of Georgia. You would expect, we're 3 months clear of a Georgia national championship. How is Ohio State able to get so much traction in a state where the defending national champions are kind of the home school?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's become kind of like a Florida or a Texas or a California as far as high school football goes. The last, 5, even 10 years maybe. And there's just so many prospects in the state. And it's almost, you see kids every year. Yeah, a ton go to Georgia, obviously. But, kids go to Alabama. They go to Auburn. They go to Florida. They go to LSU. Like, if you look at where kids from Georgia have gone, I mean, Ohio State's landed a number of really good players out of the Peach State. I'm thinking Cameron Hayward and Bradley Roby and Raekwon McMillan and Von Bell. There's probably a few others that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but those are 4 really, really good ones that I've named that all went on to play in the NFL and still are playing in the NFL. So, Ohio State has had success traditionally in the state of Georgia. They do have a few players on their roster right now from Georgia. I just think that these kids are looking nationally. They're not, and Georgia's a great option. I think they're really looking into them, and a lot of these kids have Georgia really high on their list. But I just think there's other options out there, and when you could go play for Alabama or Ohio State and you just feel more comfortable there, why not? It offers the same. If you don't care about staying close to home, those schools offer the same things that Georgia offers: competing for national championships, developing guys for the NFL, competing every day in practice against the best of the best. So I think that's probably my take on the matter. But with Caleb Downs, 5-star safety, top 10 type of kid, I had Ohio State probably if you had a top 5, maybe 3rd at best, maybe 4th or 5th. Thought Notre Dame, I thought Alabama, I thought maybe Georgia, maybe even Clemson a little bit, were maybe ahead of Ohio State. But after this visit that he just had last weekend, I think it's Ohio State and Alabama at the top right now. And, I do think he'll take official visits in the summer. He talked about Ohio State and Alabama, didn't mention any other schools having official visits right now. I think that's really a good sign of who this is down to. But, there's still room for Georgia, for Clemson, for North Carolina, Notre Dame, some others to get in the mix. But I think right now I would have it as an Ohio State-Alabama battle.
Well, I mean, you mentioned how you keep talking about these guys and how great these visits are. And, you and Bill and Mark constantly talk about how Ohio State just knocks these recruiting visits out of the park every time. This weekend's another big one for recruiting visits. And it's really a big one across the whole country in some ways. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, all among the teams that are holding their spring games on Saturday. It is a tough enough day of competition to get recruits on campus that Florida actually moved their spring game to a Thursday night this week. They're playing their spring game Thursday night instead of Saturday to avoid going head-to-head with Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, or Georgia, Alabama. I mean, that's how much do you read then into the guys who are going to Ohio State instead of Alabama or Georgia this weekend, or vice versa, the guys who are going to the Alabama spring game instead of the Ohio State spring game? Do you read anything into that, or is that looking too much into it?
I think it's probably looking too much into it. Probably depends each kid and their circumstance. I mean, a lot of these kids are probably going to whichever one was closest to them. Geographically, maybe they found out the Ohio State spring game was April 16th, first before they found out about Alabama's and Georgia's, and they booked their trip, and then they found out about Alabama's and Georgia's and said, well, I'm already going to Ohio State, or vice versa. Or there was an opportunity for them to go to Alabama for junior day or a practice, a couple weeks, the last few weeks. And they decided they were going to do that and then go to the Ohio State spring game. So I personally don't read too much into it. I don't think that there's a science behind it or anything like that. For the most part, there's probably a few kids though. Like if you had a kid from California and he could have went to any of those 3 spring games and he's deciding between like those 3 schools and USC and Oregon, for example, maybe I do read into that a little bit. So, I think it could go either way. It probably depends on the kid in each circumstance, but generally I would say there's nothing to read into. It's just whatever worked out best for different schedules and things along those lines. Maybe the flights were cheaper to Columbus or something like that. I don't know.
So who are some of the big names that people should know who are visiting this weekend? Who should people be looking for reports on from you later on this weekend?
Yeah, well, there's on our list on our site, on our Ask the Insider Sports, we have 30 names right now. I expect that probably to grow to closer to 40, 50, maybe by the time game time comes. So I'll try not to go too in depth, but 2 wide receivers I got my eye on, 2023 guys, Noah Rogers and Bryson Rogers. Definitely ones to watch there. Tight end, Walker Lyons coming out from California. Ohio State made his top group. Another kid from California, 2023, defensive lineman Mateo Ugalele, brother of DJ, the quarterback at Clemson, big-time defensive line prospect, 5-star kid, definitely one to watch. Jason Moore, another 2023 defensive lineman from DeMatha in Maryland, same program that produced Chase Young, definitely one to watch there. I got a couple Glenville kids. You got Arvell Reese, the 2023 linebacker defensive end, and then 2024 defensive back Bryce West, both who I probably have on commit watch every single time they're on campus. You got a few other really good ones. We'll talk 2024 real quick. Jaden Davis, quarterback from South Carolina, possible number 1 player in the country. A kid who might be the number 1 running back in the country for that class. Brian Jackson out of Texas is expected to be in town. Another Texan, Nigel Smith, really good defensive end, 2024. And then linebacker Sammy Brown, a 5-star kid, top 10 kid out of Georgia, is another one that I'll watch. There's a few others that are going to be really, really good players, really highly ranked players, but those were the guys that I wanted to highlight for the sake of this conversation.
You mentioned the 2 Glenville kids potentially being on commitment watch. Are they kind of the 2 that, if someone pops, those are the most likely ones, or is there someone else that you think is at least in that conversation for, say, the next month or so?
Yeah, I mean, the kid I'm going to watch is Bryson Rogers out of Florida. I know everyone's been talking about Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate and Jalen Hale a little bit for receiver. I've said since Bryson Rogers visited at the end of March that I think Ohio State's the team to beat for the Florida product. He was born in Ohio. His parents are from Ohio. He has a ton of family in Ohio. He grew up rooting for Ohio State. So I feel pretty good that Ohio State's the team to beat. I think Alabama is number 2. I do think he's trying to make a head versus heart decision here. What's the best situation for him? He's not scared of competition, so he made that very, very clear. He actually loves the fact that Ohio State's wide receiver room is loaded. He thrives off competition, so I don't think anyone they're recruiting or currently have scares him. This is a kid who told me he's probably going to take his official visits and then make a decision, but I don't know. I always think of the 2013 spring game. They got commitments from Joey Bosa, Alex Anzalone. There was a couple others. I can't remember if Mike Hireman committed or he just never committed or not, but there's a few others that committed or that spring game was huge for Ohio State. I just remember nobody expected Joey Bosa to commit and he just committed. He had such a great time. And I could just see that being this type of situation for Bryson Rogers. So I'm going to watch that one closely. Even if he doesn't commit this weekend, maybe it's why am I dragging this thing on? Let's just make it happen. Let's go to Ohio State. So that's one I'll say to watch.
All right. And you landed a very big commitment for your podcast Around the Oval this week. One of my absolute favorite guests on the Morning Scoop. Every time I have Bill on, everyone says, you should have Bill on more often. It's yes, I know. Everyone loves Bill. Yes. So let people know you had the great Build a Bank read on Around the Oval this week. Let people know what you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to preview the spring game visitors. We're going to go in depth, talk about some of the big names. Well, most of them are big names, but we're going to, highlight a few of the big names and where Ohio State stands. Could any commitments be coming? Where are they going to lay the groundwork for maybe some results later on? We also might touch upon, his South Florida Express guys. They were just up on campus. Maybe recap that a little bit. Mark Fletcher entering the Ohio State class. Obviously, potential big storyline to talk about, as well as, some of the other guys that were there. So we might touch on that a little bit. There could be a couple of them coming back up this weekend for the spring game. I know commit Cedric Hawkins will be up. Cormani McLean couldn't make it last time. Is he going to make it back up? So, Bank, he's always great to have on. Straight shooter, tells it how it is. Has forgotten more about recruiting in football than I've learned so far. So always happy to have him on, especially, him and Mark during this time. It's great to have these resources in-house to be able to get them on and talk about recruiting and Ohio State football.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys, so go ahead. Here's your homework. Wherever you're listening to this, go ahead and find Around the Oval. Subscribe to that. Mark and Bill just did a new episode of Gives in the Bank. That is their podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to that. You can do Big Me Kickoff. That's Kevin Noon's podcast. Buckeye Weekly. That's Tony Gerderman and I. We just mostly did a bunch of spring game nonsense this week. We did a spring game fantasy draft earlier in the week, and we're going to have our bold prediction show coming up either today or tomorrow. So once you're done with all the serious content that you're really going to learn a lot from, then listen to Buckeye Weekly. It's just kind of like dessert for your brain, basically. So you can find all of those wherever you find this. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of them. Subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review, which will help other folks find those shows, and which we all do truly appreciate. So thank you for doing that if you have done that. And if you haven't, thank you in advance for doing it the next time you open your podcast player platform of choice. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.